So here we have the a visual representation of Weilandstedt. So he scored a 218. The normative score is a 218 in sixth grade. So that's what you should have in the fall when you take the test. And of course, this test is all about growth and how much you've grown since during each period of taking the test. But Jalen started at a 176. He started at a 176, which is well below the normative. So 42 points below the normative. Uh, the normative is actually like a 217.6, right? But if you take a look right there in operations and algebraic thinking, it said that his score was low. In geometry, his skill was low. In real and complex numbers, his skill was low. In statistics and probability, his skill was low. And it's much of the same for reading. I don't teach reading, but also the normative was a 211, and he scored a 167. And in literary text, his skill was low. In informational text, key ideas and details is low. Vocabulary, excuse me, it was also low. And literary text, language, craft, and structure, it was also low. And informational text was also low. So he is functioning very low academically in a classroom setting, according to the NWEA test. So he doesn't really have the skills that a sixth grader should have in order to function in a classroom. So also put his dojo up. So this was during week 2 of school. He got a 65% on dojo, which means that if it was applied to, let's say, a proficiency scale, or if it was applied to a grade scale, that would actually be a D. That would be a D average. So his week 2 of school, and the reason why I didn't include week 1 was because I told them it was a tester week, for lack of better words. I told them like we'd practice, but I'd take away any negatives that they got. So he had 65%, which if it were to translate over to a grading scale, it would be a D, which means that I've had to reprimand him. And not reprimand him, but correct his behavior more than the acceptable amount of times. So if you can see, he has 13 positives and he has 7 need works. Which would mean he has 13 out of 20 for the week. And 7 times I had to address a behavior that happened in class. Week 3 of school, it was much of the same. It stayed pretty constant. It didn't adjust. He also got a 65% on dojo that week, and like I said, if applied to a grading scale, that would be classified as a D. And if you can look at some of the problems, you can actually say hitting, not listening, playing during instruction, not following directions. But he also has a couple of participating. So he likes to participate in class. Now, when he participates, he often gives the wrong answer, but I always choose the no opt-out strategy and always push him towards the answer and make sure that he has an opportunity to feel like he is working towards something, like he's working towards a correct answer, like he's getting somewhere. I want to make sure that I don't break his spirit by moving on. I want to make sure that he feels like a hard worker. If you look right here, this is a school year total so far, 73%. The reason why last week was 65 and the week before was 65, but somehow it averages out to 73 is because, like I told you guys, the very first week I gave negatives, but I also took them away. I said this was a procedural week, a rule week where we learn the ropes, and I'm not going to penalize you guys for not functioning within the classroom rules. So he has a 73%, which is a C if we were going to go by a grading scale. And that is actually the third lowest score, the third lowest percentage on Dojo in the entire class. So as you can see, a lot of the behaviors that I talked about that he demonstrates are present right there. We got not following directions, playing during instruction. He has quite a bit of not following directions, more not following directions than anything else. He's got playing during instruction. He's got quite a few hitting, and he's got quite a few not listening. Bad hallway presence. He is a playful kid, so he likes to mess with someone and then like all of a sudden start a chase through the hallway, for lack of a better word, with other students, but he doesn't know that that student is annoyed and did not appreciate whatever he did. So he takes others off task also. Alright, so possible reasons that I came up with for why he may be exhibiting those behaviors. So I said low academics lead to default classroom and school behaviors. He may have a strong need for an IEP. He may need a individualized educational plan to make sure that he stays on track, because one thing that we want to make sure that he is successful in this grade, especially 6th grade. So we want to get if at all possible, to get that done, get that data in to get that started. We want to do that so he can pass this benchmark year, 6th grade. Lack of social services throughout his educational journey. So lack of people who he can talk to and that can help him work his way into being able to socialize with his peers and get along with them. Also, maybe peer influence. Maybe in prior classes, he had peers that demonstrated the wrong way to function in a school setting. A desire to be friends with his peers, but he doesn't have the knowledge of how to adapt to their personalities. So maybe he really truly wants to be a part of something. He wants to be friends with the kids in his class, but he doesn't know how to relate to people to some students his age without upsetting them. So he may need to be socialized and functioning with his peers. The rigor of work, it could be sometimes the work gets so difficult and so hard that that he checks out. So that could be a remedy that I may need to make, adjust his work, make modifications to his work. Maybe in the classroom I don't have any visual or kinesthetic directives for him. So maybe there's nothing that I have put in place that will gather his attention, like physically, and directives that I can use to let him know and keep him active at the same time while having him listen to directions that I give him. So I also have this video right here on why student behaviors may be happening. So I'm just going to play that.
What children's classroom behaviour is really telling you. So, the minute you say that it's possible that teachers could contribute to poor behaviour, people get very upset with you. See, you're blaming me for my children's behaviour. But that's not the point. We all contribute to each other's behaviour in many ways, all the time. And the other thing about this aspect of being a teacher is that the one thing over which you have most control is your own behaviour. You might not have control over the curriculum, or how you're asked to mark, or what Ofsted do to you, but you do have control over your own behaviour. So, some of the ways that your behaviour might influence the behaviour of your children are things like winding them up. So you don't even realise you're doing it, but you say to them, right, we're going to do something really exciting in class today. Who's excited? And before you know it, the children are going a bit psycho. And it's the way that you've used your voice or the way that you've presented the lesson which has wound them up to this fever pitch. Now, sometimes that might be your intention. It might be a great thing to do. But other times, it might be problematic. Something else we can tend to do is we forget about how it feels to be a child. How it feels to take in lots of information.
I'm actually going to stop right there for
beyond the point at which,
for the sake of time. And I'm going to take it back to the PowerPoint for right now. So basically in that video, what she explains is that possible reasons for classroom behaviors could be because of things that we do as teachers. And so I need to be reflective of what I put in place or do not put in place to make sure that that the student is functioning appropriately within the classroom lanes. So some accommodations that I made is Wylan sits right there. So the yellow indicates his designated seat, and the smartboard is the red line right there, and that indicates where most of the videos and everything and the writing happens. So that means that he's very close to me in proximity. He is always nearby. I can give quick directions and move on. I can also be near him to assist him while I go over the work with the class. So also right here in this seat right here is our highest NWEA score in 6th grade. He sits directly next to him, and he's his elbow partner during partner work, and so he can partner with him and give him the assistance that he needs, and he can also push Wylan to do the classwork, and Wylan can also feed off of him. Alright. So other accommodations or intercessions that I've made is I make continuous contact, daily check-ins with his mother after school. So every day I make it a point of going to his mother and talking to her about how his day went and what he activities that he might have done behaviorally, how he did on his work and academically, whether he's struggling with something, and whatever the issues are for the day, and what I want him to work on. I also make sure that during independent practice, I make a little bit of room and a little bit of time to go over at least 3 problems with him. And like I told you earlier, I've sat him next to the highest NWEA scorer in his class, so that way he is constantly being pushed. We soon have scheduled a meeting with his mother to talk about his academics and NWEA scores, so we can figure out a plan for him to get him back on track to graduating from, or sorry, not graduating, it's not a graduation grade, but promotion from 6th grade. All right. So I'm looking forward to hearing suggestions on this, and thank you.